Hey book lovers, my name is Em and I want to talk about books. And cats. Welcome back, book lovers. It is episode 50. I'm very excited about that. And I also got a 5-star review for the podcast, which is just making my heart so happy. It's been an interesting and rather difficult week, so I have to say that really raised my spirits. So thank you to whoever left that review. Okay, I want to jump right into this week's book, because this episode's going to be a little different. This week, I want to talk about I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Iain Reid. Okay, holy crap. I've had this book on my phone for quite a while now, but I kept skipping over it to listen to other books. Well, I finally listened to it, and wow. This had an ending that I did not see coming at all, and I love that. I had a very small part of it figured out, but the reveal just punched me in the face. I haven't had a reaction to a book like that in a while. I loved it. Love, love, love. It was a great performance on the audiobook too. A narrator can really make or break a book, and this one was excellent. So it's a short one, which is fine with me. Honestly, I sometimes find that the shorter books, novellas, or short stories, they can sometimes pack a much bigger punch than longer books. You don't have a chance to get bogged down in details. It's just a quick, lightning strike. So right after I first downloaded this book, Netflix came out with their version of it, and I figured a comparison was necessary. Normally, I am a big fan of Netflix shows, but I also tend to find book-to-movie adaptations to be disappointing. I was wondering how this book could be properly portrayed in a visual format, but I had really high hopes that Netflix could handle it. I really wanted to like it. I loved the artistic aspects of the movie. The costumes were great. The actors were phenomenal. The setting was really cool. The story just didn't translate. There was too much weirdness and it just felt forced. It was like they were trying way too hard to convey what the book did quite simply, honestly. And because of that, it kind of took away from the punch of the ending. But I'll get there. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have watched it immediately after listening to the book. Some of the movie, quite a bit of it actually, is just tedious. And I know that that's kind of purposeful. That's kind of the feeling they're trying to build, but it's just too much. If you read the book first and you know what they're going for, it is a really good representation. But I just don't like this movie. I kind of think I'm supposed to dislike it. It's not comfortable, and then it gets increasingly more uncomfortable. But it should. I mean, I don't know. I also wonder if you had never read the book, would you have any idea what was going on in the movie? Or would you enjoy it more because you didn't see all the tricks that they're using to try to create certain things? Or the immense liberties that they took with certain parts of the story? Or would it be better if it just wasn't over 2 hours long? I mean, the book was short. Why is the movie long? I think that if I just turned this on and I had not read the book and wanted to compare it for the podcast, that I would not have made it through this movie. There is this ridiculously long ballet dream sequence, which is kind of like from a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the ballet dream sequence anyway. And then just compared to where the book is at this point in the story, the book is just so much more interesting. And this just feels absurd. Which I know is what they're going for, but I like the book better. And it just goes on forever. Now, I love ballet, but again, not the dream sequence so much And this just came out of nowhere, and it's so bizarre, and it just doesn't really fit. I mean, I guess it kind of does. I know what they're going for, but I don't know. I feel like this movie veers off in a very interesting direction from where the book went. So I'm going to say that I recommend the book definitely, especially the audiobook. I just think it's such an excellent performance, and I think that it might even have a little more impact than if you're reading it. And I guess watch the movie if you want to. It's fine, but I don't know. It pales in comparison to the book, for me anyway. I would love to hear your opinions on this if you have read the book and watched the movie, or your opinions on either of them separately. I definitely want to hear what other people think about this. So I wanted to get another opinion for you guys on this fever dream of a movie. And Andy listened to this book like a while ago. I don't know how well he remembers it. So I asked him to watch the movie so that we could discuss. And that's what's coming up next. So warning, there are mega spoilers ahead in this section. But after the commercial break, I will have more spoiler-free stuff. So if you don't want this story ruined, just skip ahead. Okay, so Andy is with us now, and we're going to talk about mostly the Netflix version of I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Thoughts?
Wow.
Yeah.
I just finished watching it, and it's fresh in my brain. And
yeah. Doesn't matter. You still won't figure it out.
Can I curse on this show?
Yeah.
What a mindfuck.
I know.
Like, that was absolutely well made.
Yeah, so well done, but like very frustrating.
I have a hard time with things that are kind of like cringy.
Yes.
And
uncomfortable.
And the movie just, I found that with the book, like there were times when I would be listening to it and be like,
yeah, it got really awkward at
yes.
times, which is what you're supposed to be feeling, but
it's also amazing to be able to take that feeling, and it's interesting to be able to present that feeling as a picture, you know, in the cinematography, in, you know, like whoever did the scouting for locations.
Gorgeous. Yes.
Like just such a good idea.
Well, that's the thing, like I loved the visuals, all the costumes were amazing, the sets were amazing, the acting was fantastic, but I just hated that feeling for 2 hours straight.
Oh yeah.
Which is, I think, is kind of the point. But
it really was. I was doing something else while I was watching the movie, almost because I like couldn't just sit there and watch like the uncomfortableness.
Yeah, see, I made myself just sit there and watch it, because I also watched it like right after I finished listening to the book too, so it was not
okay,
not a good combo, because they messed with so many like aspects of the story.
See, I think that was good on my end because I listened to that
like a year ago
or
like something.
Probably a year ago.
Yeah.
And so but it's still stuck in my brain. Like it's one of the
excellent book.
It is an excellent
the audio
book
is fantastic. It's really well done. But
there are just sections of it that you
Yeah.
can't translate directly because it's so much in his thoughts, her thoughts, like, even though she's not really a thing.
Well, yeah, see, I love that too. I love that, like, that was my favorite thing about the book, was that I thought that, like, part of it was not going to be real, like, either the guy or the janitor, but, like, it ended up being, like, she wasn't real, like, the narrator wasn't real.
Yes.
And I like that.
Yeah, I don't know
usually
that.
Done.
No, that's not usually done. It's a clever way to approach it.
Yes.
I also, it was interesting because it was very like it's divided into several sections.
Yeah.
So there's a whole like first half hour of the movie where they're in a car and it's so claustrophobic,
yes.
and you're just like,
it had the feeling of like a long, uncomfortable car ride.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really did. And they dragged it out long enough to make it, you know, so then by the time they got to the farm, you were glad that they were done in the car, but then that just became monstrously uncomfortable.
See, I had a lot of issues with that section. I was glad that they didn't get too heavy into like the farm animals part, because in the book that was very graphic and disturbing.
Oh yeah.
But then when they got in the house, they had swapped. In the book, it's the father that's like super duper crazy,
Yep.
I guess. And they swapped it so that the mom was. And, like, she was awesome. And the dad was really good, too. But it was just... I felt like they almost did too much with that section. Like, they were just really hammering it home how, like, insane the family was. But if that's supposed to be in his brain,
Yeah.
it could be that way. You know, it was kind of like a conglomeration of memories. But you don't know that at the time.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about it is that it's this... They go from, you know, she is just crazy to then she has tinnitus, then to like it's obviously like...
Oh, and then it
like,
jumps around in time. And
yes.
like, yeah, that didn't really happen so much in the book. It was more just little incongruities, you know.
Yeah.
Like he drew a picture of her when he was a kid or something. Like it was, you know, just, it wasn't quite so like aggressively done in the book.
Yes. Well, the book, I feel like it got, slowly, it was a slow burn weirdness that came through. And I feel like...
But it was also broken up with these little sections that hinted at the ending.
Yes.
And like in a way where you didn't still know what was going on, but they changed the ending so much that you couldn't really do that with the movie.
Yes. And so with this one, I feel like they broke it into 3 distinct sections. And like the first one was totally like pretty normal, but with some weirdness and some uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
The second section, it started, you're like, okay, something's real weird here. It's going bonkers. We're kind of going off the rails. Obviously, something is like...
gonna happen.
Like this whole situation's weird. And then when they go to the school, things just went like...
batshit.
Yeah, batshit.
When it just began to be like a dream ballet from a musical, I was like, what is happening?
I like
and
that.
then it just continued forever.
Yeah, it was like huge, long dream ballet. And then the guy gets out of his truck and he's naked and he's following the like bleeding animated pig.
Yeah. Yeah, the pig was weird. I'd almost block the pig out of my mind, honestly.
It was,
See, and I thought that the pig was going to lead him back into the school so that they could do the ending like in the book. Because,
that's what I thought too.
Yeah, it's in the school and kind of more gruesome, but then he ends up just being in the truck. That was like a hallucination as he dies, I guess.
I guess.
I don't know. There was a lot of questions.
Yeah. I think it was interesting that they had him on stage first getting whatever his award was that his mom kept talking about.
Yes.
And being all weird and awkward. But instead of that, like, he goes over and, like, he sings the song that Judd sings from Oklahoma.
You are much more familiar with Oklahoma. I only, like, guessed that it was Oklahoma because of the kids in, like, the cowboy hats in the beginning. But, like...
They also talked about it in the car.
Oh.
Earlier in the car, they had talked about Oklahoma, and then...
Oh my god, they just went on and on and on and on about so many things that I kind of tuned out sometimes, honestly.
So, what was his name? Plemons.
Yes, Jesse Plemons.
Jesse Plemons.
He's fantastic.
He is a great actor.
Yeah.
He was the guy who was the
boyfriend.
He was the boyfriend in this, and he was the really scary guy from the end of Breaking Bad, or from the Breaking Bad movie.
Yeah, that little, like, was he in the short movie?
Yeah, he was the one that they did is like the final thing.
And then he was also in the Netflix like show version of Fargo too.
Yes.
And that was excellent.
Yeah, he's a very good actor.
Very unsettling.
He is. He really reminds me, and it's said in a few things that I've read too. Like there's been comparisons between him and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, I could see that. He even has the same kind of facial expressions. That's weird.
Yes.
Huh. Yeah, it's interesting because, like, if you just look at him, if, like, dressed and lit a certain way, he could totally be, like, a dad on, like, a sitcom or whatever.
That's true.
But he just goes for these, like, just kind of dead in the soul, sort of, like, terrifying characters, and he does it really well.
Oh, yeah. He could be any serial killer in any serial killer movie that he wanted to be.
Yes.
I almost think that would be too easy for him, though. He seems like somebody who wants to do something like this that is just...
is super complicated.
Yes.
Yeah, he was excellent.
Because not an easy character.
No. Really several characters all in one.
Exactly.
Like, it was all over the place. She was at least, like... They tried to kind of mess with her near the end. Like, they changed the way she talked and they changed the way she looked or was dressed or whatever. But she was always just kind of a flat, like, almost two-dimensional character. Which I guess if you were, like, a lonely old man who'd never really had any, like, companionship, that might be what you create.
Yeah, he was
in your
just
mind,
like, yeah, he was
know?
that person, or she was that person in his mind.
Yeah. So she doesn't really have to be, like, a whole character necessarily.
I hadn't really thought about that. That's interesting.
Yeah, she was very flat.
I also found it interesting. That sort of fits with, at the very end of the movie, he's doing all this stuff in front of an audience, and they all have wrinkle makeup on.
Yes, they all have old, because he was always, like, at the high school cleaning, and they were doing, like, stage plays, and the kids would have, like, aged makeup on, so...
But then, in the audience, it's all adults with super aged makeup on, which is very...
It was very odd.
Yes.
Good old makeup, though.
Yeah.
But, like, stage makeup shot in a non-stage way looks really strange, too.
It does. It was...
The whole thing was just beautiful and bizarre.
Yes. Like the ending, too. Like the very ending.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing was just wild. All right, well. Any final thoughts?
I think people should go out and watch the movie.
Well, see,
if they haven't already.
Here's my question, though. And you read it too, so I don't know. But if you had not read the book and you just watched that, would you have any fucking idea what was going on?
No, I think I would have liked it better.
You think so?
I think I mean, yes. I think I would have liked the movie better because I kept being like, oh, this is what they're doing with this section. Oh, what are they going to do when they get to the farmhouse? Oh, yeah, there's a school. Oh, my God, the school. Where are they going to do there?
Yeah.
You know, whereas I think if
it completely changed the entire ending.
I think if I had seen it without reading the book, it would have played very much like a David Lynch film.
Oh, okay, I could see that.
Especially as it got towards the end.
Yeah, I guess like the end would be much more of like a sort of reveal if you didn't already know what was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true. Because I really, like, overall did not enjoy watching that. but it's because...
Thanks for making me watch it.
I know. When I asked you to watch it and you were like, oh, it was that good, huh? I was like, mm-hmm. I mean, it is.
It was good.
It's really good, but it's so uncomfortable. All right, well, thank you for giving me your opinion. I just wanted to see if you felt the same.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Now it's time for a quick break, and then I'll be back with some facts about yours truly and a new chapter of my weekly writing project, Heart of the Storm. Hey, book lovers. Is there anything that goes together better than nature and reading? When I was a kid, reading in the woods was one of my favorite pastimes, and I still find being out in the trees to be just magical. I am a full-blown nature head. And if you are too, check out the link in the show notes for Naturehead Co. You can get 15% off your order with code FRAPP, that's F-R-A-P-P, and get some fun clothes you can wear out in nature or just when you're chilling at home. Comfy clothes and reading go hand in hand. They also donate a portion of each sale to help the planet, and there's nothing wrong with that. Check out Naturehead Co. through the link in the show notes and use code FRAPP for 15% off. Show off your love of adventure and comfy clothes. Welcome back, book lovers. Since this is episode 50, I thought I would give you some random facts about me, your book-obsessed podcaster. So, one, which I had never really considered until recently, is I have never owned a calico cat. Just about every other color of cat, but never calico, and I think they're absolutely gorgeous. Maybe someday I'll have to get one. I usually just wait for cats to come to my house, because that's how they end up living here. Okay, fact number 2. I have directed plays for almost 20 years. My first play was Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and my last was also Alice in Wonderland. I have directed various versions of Alice in Wonderland 5 times total in those 20 years, and it is still my favorite. The last show was with my high school students, and I worked in some Lady Gaga music, and it made me so happy. It was such a nice fit. That's the thing about Alice in Wonderland is you can get real creative with it. And out of those 5, none of them have been the same. They've all been very different productions. And I love that. And final fact, I once hid in the back of my 2nd grade classroom and read for the entire second half of the school day. I don't know if my teacher just didn't notice or just let me read, but that was a good day. So I'm so excited that I have made it to episode 50. That kind of blows my mind. And I'm super excited for the next 50 and everything after. I am going to be bringing you more interviews with people that are involved with books, writing, podcasting, all kinds of good stuff. I'm also going to start doing short videos, I think. Mostly, I am thinking I want to watch and discuss more TV and movie versions of books, because are there good ones? I know there's got to be a few. And I've also brought on someone younger and smarter to start doing something with the Books and Cats TikTok. Something better than my one terribly edited video of my cats. And of course, there's going to be even more Books and Cats stuff. I am so excited about all of it. All right, so let's talk about cats. I'm kind of obsessed with Calico Cats this week. So I looked up some more facts about calicos. I think the fact I found the most interesting about them is that 99.9% of all calicos are female because of the unique chromosomal makeup that determines the color variations in their coats. It is thought that there is only 1 in 3,000 male calico kittens, which is kind of crazy. And for there to be a male calico cat, they actually have to have XXY chromosomes instead of just the normal XY. And that apparently is called the Klinefelter syndrome. And then I also found that there are actually no Calico Cat breeds. The term calico actually refers to the tricolored coat on the cat. And I guess a number of different breeds can have calicos as long as they have the orange, black, and white hues. I saw a picture of a Persian calico, and that cat was beautiful. Calico cats are also used a lot in Japanese culture. They have the Japanese beckoning cats, which are those little waving cat statues that you sometimes see at Japanese restaurants or businesses. They're usually gold-colored, but they're based on the calico and are thought to bring wealth and good business. They also believe that calico cats help them catch fish, and Japanese sailors and fishermen have long kept calicos on board their vessels as a talisman for safety and a bountiful catch. And I'm guessing they take care of mice, too. So that's a bunch of information about calico cats, if you were interested. And now it's time for the quote of the week, which is actually 3, of course. I can't pick just one. And these 3 are just kind of speaking to me this week. The first one is from Richard Branson, and it is, "Every success story is a tale of constant adaptation, revision, and change." The second quote is from Eileen Brown, "Looking back and learning will enable you to move forward." And finally, from Justin Can, "Fear of change is a human instinct. Embracing change is a superhuman ability." So you can see that my mindset right now is on change and growth and moving forward, which is where I try to keep it. I like to be productive. And so finally, it is time for the newest chapter of my weekly writing project, Heart of the Storm. Every week, I am writing a new chapter in this story, and it goes straight from my brain and into this podcast. No editing. I think it's okay. I think it's coming along pretty well. And this week is chapter 32. Enjoy. Nume sliced through the air. Her silvery wings caught the sunlight, and for just a moment, she gleamed like the morning dew. She tried to remember the old days, when she and her sisters had lived in relative peace and satisfaction. It had been a long time ago. Yet it seemed so recent to Nume. Probably to her sisters as well. But she would never know for sure. She hadn't seen any of them in years. She fled the mansion one night and found refuge amongst the tree dwellers. They were less organized at the time, and she was able to hide for quite a while. Moz found her eventually. They had an uncanny knack for locating all of the siblings, and Nume had known they would show up at some point. Luckily, Moz had always had a soft spot for their winged sister. Of them all, only Nume had been given the power of flight. It made her sisters blind with envy. Most of them had their own strengths and abilities, but they were never satisfied. That was their downfall. Hers as well, unfortunately. Wings or not, Nume could never escape her family. They tied her up tight in this mess with Thea. Nume knew she had been delusional to think she'd be excluded from her sister's wrath. Moz had claimed it was foolproof. Nothing ever is, though. Nume knew that well. Something had gone wrong, of course. Now Thea was back, and she was angry. She was flying to her death. There was no question about that. Nume inhaled the forest air and hovered for a moment, enjoying the sweetness. She wanted to stay forever. It wasn't possible. She knew that. For the first time in her miserable life, Nume was doing something for someone else. She would not run away and hide this time. This time she was taking action. Reluctantly, she flew on. The mansion wasn't far. It loomed ahead much too quickly, and once again, she hesitated. Thea watched the approaching glint of silvery light from the large window in the kitchen. On the stove beside her, a large pot bubbled and steamed. The air was sharp and pungent with the scent of herbs. Thea waved her hand over the pot, and the hue changed from green to lavender. She moved around the kitchen, collecting odd and ugly ingredients from the baskets Ke left for her. Thea hummed as she worked. She wiped her hands on her apron, and then removed it and smoothed her dress. She was looking forward to Nume's visit. She hadn't seen her sister in a very long time. Nume circled the mansion, trying to gather the will to face her sister. She and Thea had not been close. In fact, Thea had often tormented her. This was a bad idea. This was the worst idea. Every fiber of her being told her to run, to fly back to her safe little home in the forest, and never come out again. She could still turn back. She could just go home. She swooped down toward the mansion and landed in the courtyard. She had been a terrible mother, but she could do this much. Thea greeted her sister at the door. "Well, look who it is. You're the first one to come visit me, Nume. I must say I didn't expect it. I thought I'd have to come looking for you." Nume followed her silently through the massive house. Thea led her to the kitchen. The familiar smell made Nume pause. Her legs wobbled, and she steadied herself against the counter. Thea ladled the cosmic liquid into 2 mugs and pushed one across the table to an empty chair. She motioned for Nume to sit. "Go on," she said with a smirk. "Relax. I'm not interested in killing you, Nume. Not yet, anyway." Nume slid into the chair and wrapped her hands around the mug. That smell. She recognized it. It made her forehead break out in a cold sweat. She shivered. Thea was watching her and smiling wide. Her teeth were gray and rotting. Nume's stomach heaved. "Drink it," Thea said softly. "I don't want you. Your magic is weak. You've done nothing with your extra time. You could have been so powerful." She shook her head sadly. "What a waste. No offense, but you would have bought them plenty of extra time, and I could have been left alone to take over. Imagine what I could have done in the last 2 decades. She sipped her drink and gave Nume a pointed look. She motioned for her to drink as well. "Cheers, sis," she said, tapping her cup against Nume's. She placed her sister's cup in her hand. "Drink up." Nume cleared her throat. I, she stammered. Her hands were shaking around the mug and the liquid sloshed over the rim and splattered onto the pristine white table. "I'm sorry. I'll clean it up." Thea laughed loudly and threw her head back. She exposed even more of her rotten teeth. "That's hilarious," she exclaimed. "You participated in my death, sent me to the other realm. But you apologize for a little spill. Unbelievable." She ran her fingers through her hair. It was matted tangles of gray and brown, and her fingers stuck halfway through. She laughed again. Her eyes were bright and glistening. "I'm sorry," Nume stammered. "I'm sorry for it all. For everything. I know I shouldn't have been a part of it. I know." She swallowed hard and tried to continue. The words seemed to stick in her throat, but eventually she got them out. "I want to take Gemma's place. I know what you're doing. She's weak like me. It won't matter if you exchange mother for daughter." Thea considered her sister. Her eyes looked a little less wild. She said, leaning back in her chair and sipping from her cup. "Interesting idea, sis. But your magic is withered and old. Why would I trade?" Nume slammed her mug down, slopping more of the menacing liquid onto the table. "This isn't a game," she said angrily. "You know it's a fair trade. Let me do this one thing right." Thea rolled her eyes. "You really take the whole motherhood thing seriously. Now, anyway." She drummed her fingers on the tabletop. "Okay," she said after a long silence. "Fine. Consider this my gift to you, sister. You get to make up for abandoning your baby." Nume smiled, but it faltered a little. She didn't feel good about this victory, though she tried. "You know, that's something you girls took from me." Thea narrowed her eyes, and her expression hardened. "You took away my chance to raise Harper." "Did you want that?" Nume asked slowly. She tensed and waited for her sister's violent response, but none came. Thea was staring into her mug, and tears rolled down her cheeks. "I did," she said finally. "More than anything. I had no idea." Thea gave her a tight, pained smile. Her eyes were wet with tears and bloodshot. "Drink your tea, Nume. I'll make the trade. You win." Nume fought back against her brain's urge to run. She gripped the handle of the mug and brought it to her lips. That smell. She would never forget it. It had started this whole mess. She stared Thea in the eye and drank it all down at once. A moment later, she crumpled to the floor. Thea finished her tea and rinsed both of the cups in the sink. She stepped over her sister's motionless body and whistled while she worked. She had just placed the mugs back in the cupboard when the skeletal remains of her sister Mina skittered into the room. A smell followed her wherever she went, the smell of decay and rot, sweet and sickly. It filled the kitchen. Thea lit a candle and tied her scarf over her nose. "What do you want?" Mina poked at the body with her long fingers. "Still warm," the monstrosity hissed. "Yes," Thea said absently. "I had intended to keep you all alive, or, well, you know, kind of alive at least. But she chose to take Gemma's place." "Wow," Mina's remains croaked. "I can't see you doing that for Francie." "No way." Mina's long jaw jutted out in defiance. "You're not letting Gemma live, though, right?" Thea laughed. "Of course not. I need every single one of them gone. Those kids are going to bring me back to life." Mina bent her stretched, thin frame in half to sit in the now vacant seat across from Thea. She stretched out her disgusting fingers, and they covered half the table. Her long, blood-red nails tapped the surface. "What about me?" Thea wrinkled her nose. "You've got eternal life. What more do you want?" Mina's extra legs curled around the edge of the table. She thought about flipping it. Her disgusting new body enraged her, and she fantasized about lunging across the table at her sister's neck. Thea smiled and shook her head slowly. "I wouldn't try it," she said icily. Mina nodded. It didn't surprise her that Thea could read her thoughts. Nothing her sister did surprised her anymore. She knew Thea was capable of anything. Thea's smile widened and she nodded. "Fine," she said, and she snapped her fingers. Mina's body went stiff as a shock of electricity shot through her. Her vision went dark, and she gasped and rubbed her eyes. As her eyesight slowly returned, she noticed her fingers first. They were thin and wrinkled, but the skin was peachy pink, and the length and shape had returned to normal. "No way," she said. She rushed to a mirror in the hallway and examined her appearance. She was older and wrinkled, but it was such an improvement she didn't care. She twirled with excitement and danced back into the kitchen. Thea shook her head, but she was smiling. "You owe me one. Don't forget it." She pointed her perfectly polished nail at Mina, and her sister nodded. Her eyes were round with fear. "Anything," she agreed. And that is it for Chapter 32 of Heart of the Storm. And that's it for the 50th episode of M's Books and Cats podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And please stay tuned for even more Books and Cats stuff in the coming year. Until next time, keep reading.